It's time to take this fight to an all-new front. Go behind the scenes. Be the first to know about our exclusives. And stay connected. Only one man has what it takes to bring the fun of Comic-Con right to your screen. It's time for an all-new episode of Kickin' It with Onrie, the live shopping show.
Victory Seekers, you're watching Kickin' It with Onrie. Kicking it back, I should say. Man, what a week it's been. So, I've been, it's been an interesting week, folks. On Sunday night, Kevin and I did our show, and we got invited to come on to CBSN, and that's been a really big game changer for us. And things happen much faster than I could have ever imagined for them to happen. These guys run a real tight ship. They run everything as clearly as possible, and it's a huge honor to be a part of that. It's like a big step. It's like getting like premier placing at like a convention or something. It's like I really feel at home with this group too, because it's like all these dealers who are part of this group, we're all trying to learn from each other. We're all trying to navigate. We're all trying to like figure this out, because this is a brand new landscape for everybody. And it's gotten me thinking a lot, lately. It's got me working. I mean, I don't think I've ever worked this hard, even when I was doing conventions. Maybe I just got used to doing them, because when you're just getting kind of like used to, running the gamut and like constantly doing the same thing, it all just becomes second nature. And you kind of know that, like, okay, today you got to package books, tomorrow you're going on a flight, you're going to be setting up, and like, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, those are my blocks of time to work. And sometimes if it's a 4-day show, it'd be like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I do miss the convention scene a lot, but I also feel at the same time that I've gained so much perspective from everything that's happened as a result of the situation that we're in right now. And when this all happened initially, I mean, I can't tell you guys how depressed I was, like, back in March. Like, honestly, I never want to feel like that again. I never want to go back to a period in my life where, like, I feel helpless and like I can't do what I'm meant to do. And I remember even when I was at C2E2, which was my last show, and not my favorite show either, might I add. I typically, like, when I look back on like the years, it's like C2E2 has always been like one of my worst performing shows, and that's not always the case for a lot of creators. A lot of people really love it. It's a hometown show for me, so it's like, going there, it's kind of like you got to do it. And this year was actually a pretty good show. I just had a really good time doing it, and I was gearing up for like a really solid season. The show went exactly how I wanted it to. I made just as much money as I needed to, and I felt myself getting out of like a pretty dark tunnel that I was in already, because when last year's season ended, things kind of like got dark pretty quick. Like, I ended up with some unexpected bills, and then like all of a sudden I was checking my credit card, and like I owed like all this money, and like it just really put me deep in reserves. And like production on YI SOON SHIN has been a little bit slower because our artist was working on finishing up a new project that he's been working on. And so when everything first started happening and we lost all these shows, I felt like I was just strapped in cement boots, and I couldn't move. And no matter what I did, I didn't know where I was going next. And I'd never felt this helpless before. Like, usually, like, when I was working at conventions, and let's say I was like in a tough convention scenario, it was kind of like a different kind of instinct kicked in of, okay, this is what I got to do to adapt and survive. And the thing is I was always more effective in person, and I failed to really focus on or even build upon a digital like presence on the internet. I mean, sure, I post pictures on Facebook and I try and build my following, but I've always been about a grassroots following. I don't believe in spamming people constantly. I don't believe in talking if I don't have anything intelligent to say. You know, I don't think it's important for everybody to know everything that's going on in my life as it's happening, and particularly when it comes to things like politics. I don't really feel like these kinds of things are, you guys don't need to know how I feel about that. I mean, sure, if we're hanging out and we're friends and things like that, that's fine. I'll tell you what I think or whatever. But for me, when it comes to sharing my work with you, it's about my work. It's not about what I think or whatever. It doesn't matter what I think. What matters is, am I doing a good job of sharing my work with you? Am I doing a good job of even creating work? You know, and so I just wanted to take tonight to kind of sit back and hang out with you guys a little bit more and chat with you. And it looks like we got some comments here, so I want to chat with you guys, share some experiences I've had with you guys over the years in conventions, and sort of like what's going on in my head right now, and you know, trying to kind of figure out how to navigate forward, because you know, this is a whole new frontier. I mean, this is not the same thing. Like, yes, it's like Comic-Con around the clock, because like I can come on here anytime I want, and I can talk to you guys, and I can try and, you know, pitch and sell you stuff. But I'm not always sure that the same, you know, that different people are listening. And if different people are listening, then, you know, I don't know if I'm getting the right people. I mean, you never know. And that's the thing about sales, is it always looks so easy on the outside. Everybody thinks it's like, you know, you're just hanging out there, and, you know, you have to be really cool about it. You really got to have thick skin, because a lot of times you're going to get rejected. And when you're in person, it's no big deal. You can kind of brush off someone who's not paying attention to you. But on the internet, you can't really tell who's paying attention and who's not, you know? And that's the thing about videos too. It's like, even this video right now, you might be interested in watching this, but you may not be able to do it right now. You might watch it later. And I find it really interesting to see, like, one trend I've been noticing is that people tend to buy at later points. And it doesn't always happen on the show. It doesn't happen live. And it's great when it does. It feels awesome when it does. But even if it doesn't mean that, you know, things are all doom and gloom. It's just a new frontier. It's something, a new place to venture off to and to discover. So yes, I am live. I am live right now. I hear you, my friend. Let me know how you're doing. Trish, hey, sorry I missed your. Trish, you ain't got to be sorry. You've been great. You know, I appreciate your business so much. And loved seeing you on Tom's show yesterday. Real sorry to hear about your experience with Lucy Lawless. You know, I think she's awesome. You know, and I really liked her in Spartacus, and I thought that was a really great show. And yeah, so you know, thanks for tuning in tonight. It really means a lot to me. Appreciate it. And Kitsune, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Really means a lot to me. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting being in this situation, because it's like it's much easier talking to you guys and to be able to have a conversation, to be able to ask you questions like how you're doing, to be able to read you, and to be able to build those connections. I feel like what we do in person is much different. Like, for example, one of my favorite people in the world, Richard Shipp, is somebody that I have never had the chance to actually speak with in person, but we message each other all the time. And, you know, it's kind of cool to, you know, just connect with him that way. And I also think about like how things evolve over time. Like, you know, I remember when I first going back to C2E2, when I was first there, premiering the first YI SOON SHIN graphic novel. And I was so proud of this book. I can't even tell you how long this took to put together. Because when I first started working on YI SOON SHIN in 2007, what happened was I was at not Barnes and Noble, Borders bookstore, which used to be a huge bookstore. I don't know if you guys know about Borders. Let me know if you've ever been there before. It's been out of business now for well over 10 years. Trish is writing right now. True, because I work and Mike will tell me about things he liked and I can buy later after watching your episodes later. I know you will. I have no doubt about it. And the thing about sales, and I'll come back to YI SOON SHIN for a minute because this all correlates, is that you can't force people to do something that they may not be ready to do. That's actually how you kill sales. But we're not talking about that. That's not the point of this show. The point of this show, even though it's the shopping show, because yes, everything is available, and I want you guys to know everything that's available. But the point of this show is for us to connect. That's really the first thing for me, because if we don't have a connection, if we don't have an ongoing relationship, then why would you want to give me business in the first place? And if you're not going to enjoy the work, then I don't want you to buy it anyway, because it's just going to collect dust. There's a saying that every book that's on a shelf and every unread book is wasted ammunition, and that's how I feel about it. For me, it's most important is to make YI SOON SHIN ready and available in as many venues as I possibly can. And honestly, I wasn't doing that for a very long time. I mean, as much as I was doing great at conventions, I was not investigating all the other alternatives, because that's like building a new thing, and that's exactly what this is right now. Everything I'm doing is a grassroots movement, and it's something that starts with nothing. And then as time goes on, you get a little bit more traction. And I'll tell you what, as tough as it is right now, starting off in the beginning, I'm noticing much more is happening now than when I wasn't doing anything at all. And that was kind of the funny thing about it was I was falling into this funk, and I'll get to that. I should probably focus more on what I was trying to tell you guys with YI SOON SHIN. So anyway, what got me to the point where why I'm so proud of this graphic novel is when I went to Borders, this bookstore, I went into their graphic novel section. They always had this really prestigious, excellent rack of graphic novels, and they had all kinds of stuff there. They had stuff from Marvel and DC, obviously, but they also had stuff from smaller publishers like IDW and Fantagraphics and some other stuff. And my dream was always to see YI SOON SHIN on their racks, and I was always just imagining what the book would look like. And it was such a huge accomplishment in my mind to see it come together. Sadly, Borders closed about a year before I got this book out there, but everything I was doing with those single issues was to get to this point where I would have this graphic novel. And back then I didn't use Kickstarter. I just bootstrapped everything. In fact, I actually borrowed money in order to print up this book. And it was a huge investment. I had no idea what I was doing. I was still very new in the game. And so I just went all out. I said, all right, I'm going to print up 5,000 of these books. I got 5,000 of these. And here's the thing about it is, when you print up 5,000 books or 5,000 copies of anything, you got to be ready you got to have a channel to move it, and you got to move it quickly. You don't want to sit on inventory for a very long time, because what happens over time is it gets harder and harder to move, and you're not making money. If you're not moving inventory, there's no income generation. So every business should have that mindset, right? So at that point, I wasn't doing a lot of conventions either. It's not like I hit the ground running like some of these other guys do. I started small. I wanted to kind of get an understanding of what was out there. So the first couple of years that I was doing this full time, I was only doing about 4 to 6 conventions a year. And it wasn't until I did my first San Diego Comic-Con that I was like, all right, I'm ready to do this. And I brought 1,000 books with me, and I sold them out throughout the course of the time that I was at the show. And I had to work my ass off for it. I did not sit down at all for those 5 days. I was on my feet the whole time, slinging books, and just moving. And it was such a thrill. I love it so much. I love being out on the floor. There's no thrill like it. It's amazing. You're interacting with so many people. It's all kinds of things. Kitsune, did my book look like you thought it would? Absolutely it did, man. I think your book looked great. In fact, I got it right here, folks. I'm going to be pitching this and talking all about it in a couple weeks on 101 Tales. This is an event that is put together by Mog Park, Onvu, and Mog's husband, Mel, and they are doing some really cool stuff. They have partnered up with Comixplex, who are really awesome. These guys are just great. And yeah, Jason, Kitsune, I'm very, very proud of you, man. I think you did a really good job with your book. I think you worked your butt off on it. And for those of you who don't know, Kitsune has muscular dystrophy, and you know, it's really difficult. He can't control, or he can't move his body. He's paralyzed, and he still made a comic, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I honestly can't wait to read it. I can't wait to go to battle for him, and I hope I can sell him some books. Hopefully I'll learn a couple things between now and the point when I'm actually doing it. I would actually like to see you sell some books, man, and I have a feeling you will. You don't even need my help. After all the Kickstarters you've done, you're self-made, man. I'm really proud of you. But going back to what I was saying about getting my work done, it was a huge accomplishment for me to get this graphic novel completed. I was like, all right, everything's going to change and everything's going to get better. I had all the ammunition. I had everything possible to make it successful. I had a forward by Stan Lee. I mean, how many people get forwards by Stan Lee? It doesn't happen very often. And meeting Stan was a huge, like, it was a dream come true for me. I mean, I'd known Stan since I was a young kid, and he had always inspired me. And, you know, just meeting your childhood hero is like really just an inspiring thing. So I thought that since I had Stan endorsing this book, I had everything. I had a great looking book. I mean, I can't tell you guys how much blood, sweat, and tears went into YI SOON SHIN. And it's not just this page, it's every single page. Can you link that event you're talking about? Yes, absolutely. So it's 101 tales. I will see what I can find here. And we will get this going here in just a second. So, and what you want to do really is you want to go to here, Trish, I'm going to send this to you in Messenger so you can check it out. You can also meet Kitsune too, which I think you'll appreciate. She's really fantastic, and I'm sorry I have my own hangups. Kitsune is part of the LGBTQ community, and she works really hard on her book. And yeah, like I said, I can't wait to pitch it. So I sent you a message just now. So yeah, you can check it out. But going back to what I was saying with YI SOON SHIN is, you know, like after all this painstaking labor and all the things that we had to go through with this, I finally got it out, and it was, you know, exactly what I wanted it to be. Everything about it was perfect. And when I got the printed editions, I was so like thrilled, and I was ready to take this book and sell a ton of copies at C2E2. And it was the second year of the show, and I had decided to split my table with an unknown artist. So like you could have bought half tables or full tables. I figured I'd save a couple $100. So I'll just get a half table. So that's what I did. And when I do conventions, I stand out in front of my table, not because I'm trying to take anything from people, but because for me, it's about making that connection. It's about us being able to shake hands. It's about you knowing that I care enough about my book that I am willing to stand on my feet for hours on end, and that I'm willing to, that I can be mobile, that I can be flexible, that it's not just like, you know, I wanted the experience to be different. Like when we walk through a Comic-Con, we typically see artists busy sketching stuff, and they're looking down. And then we have other people who are not really used to being out there and engaging people, so they kind of sit behind their tables and things like that. Very rarely do we see people really kind of going after those sales, and even less do we see them doing it in front of their tables. Like what I did at conventions was unorthodox, you know. But I always made an effort to let people know that I was not there to take sales. Like if I saw that somebody was, you know, talking to someone or looking at somebody else's work, I would never go and try and steal their sales, because that doesn't serve anybody. If someone is paying attention to something and I try and get their attention to come and look at me, that could kill the sale for my neighbor and for me, and it gets me in trouble. So it just never really never really benefited me. And after doing 100 shows throughout the years, I learned how to kind of navigate and how to make it work. But, you know, when I first released this graphic novel, I didn't know what to expect. You know, I was really excited about it. I remember I went to this event and CB Cebulski was there. And this was back when he was doing like talent hunts for Marvel. And so his job was primarily to find new talent. So I gave him my book and I was hoping that he would read it and maybe I'd have some Marvel work. And unfortunately, I never heard from him again. And, you know, that was it. But that's not what I was really pushing for. What I was really hoping for was to make this graphic novel a smash hit. And I thought that not only was this graphic novel going to be so much better than the single issues, I was so eager to push it that I forgot that I even had single issues. I was like, all right, single issue days are done. This is what people wanted. And so I went to the show, and the first day I was there, I sold so few graphic novels. I was expecting to sell like at least 30 or 40 of them. I sold 7. On the first day that I premiered this graphic novel, I only sold 7 copies of it. Absolutely ridiculous. I was so upset. I can't even begin to tell you guys. I worked for so many years, pushed myself to the very edge, finally had exactly what I wanted, exactly what I imagined, and that's it. 7. That was all I could do. It was shocking to me. And the thing that I noticed was I was just pushing this. I wasn't even pushing our single issues. And the whole day was like that. And it was so hard. It was so brutal. And what was even worse was my neighbor got upset because in the process of trying to move these books, I may not have been paying attention, or I may have just been so in a zone. I know I was probably not emitting the right vibes or whatever, but my neighbor got upset with me and he left. And then my other neighbors got upset. And so I got visited by the head of Artist Alley, and he told me, you know, you got to be careful. You know, you don't want to be stealing sales from other people. And I tried to tell him, like, look, you know, that's not what I do. But of course, it was me versus everybody else. And there came a point by the middle of the weekend that things were so bad. And I remember, like, after that first day, I went home and I thought to myself, what did I do wrong? Like, how could I have made this better? What could I have done to have improved? Like, how can I make sure that Saturday is not as bad as Friday? So what I did was I practiced my pitch. I recorded it. I listened to it, you know, and I just kept repeating it in my head. And I had all this stuff. And then I went off to work. When I went to work the next day, it was even worse. And it was so bad that I remember calling my mom and telling my mom, you know, it's so bad here. Everybody, my neighbors were scowling at me. Like, they really just wanted to see me, like, leave. They hated me. And I hated being there. And there's no worse feeling than not wanting to be somewhere and knowing that you have no choice but to be there. It's like going to work when you really don't want to be at work, but when everybody's also, like, eyeing you and, like, thinking to yourself, like, who is this guy and why is he here? And, you know, that's where I was. That was me in the beginning. And what ended up happening was, I remember Jill Thompson was in the same aisle I was. She was at, like, the corner. And then there was this other guy who was there who was really doing a great job. I mean, he was working. He was really hustling. He was doing great, interacting with people. And all of a sudden, there was a camera crew. There was, like, some press coming. And I don't know what it was at that moment when I saw that press, but something in my head just snapped. And as they were walking by, I held up my book and I said, hey, do you want to interview me? And, you know, I'll tell you about my book and, you know, I'll show it to you real quick. And they were like, yeah. So I got up there and I pitched the book again. And I sold a copy of the book on an interview. I was like, well, cool. I can do it. And then I looked underneath my table and I realized I had all these single issues. And I said, you know what, maybe it's not that the graphic novel is bad. It's that people may want to save some of their money and, you know, focus more on the single issues. I mean, I got them. I got to sell them. It's not like they don't exist anymore because of the graphic novel. So I started working on my single issues and then, you know, working up to the graphic novel so that people would know that they have choices. And it's always better to start with a cheaper option and work your way up because you don't want to start expensive and go cheap. It just, once you get that no, it kind of kills the sale anyway. So it's kind of hard to get someone, and once someone has made up their mind and they say no, That's it, you know, and that's the secret of it all, is you want to try and give people an incentive to keep saying yes. Like, for example, I offer free bookmarks at a convention, because who's going to turn down a free bookmark? If you turn down a free bookmark, you don't want to hear my pitch anyway. But if you're walking past me and I say, hey, can I tell you about my comic? And you take a free bookmark, there you go. That's it. I hand you a bookmark. Now my chances of you saying yes have gone up 50%. But there's going to be a cutoff point, obviously. But it's not going to kill a sale. It's better to get $10 than $0, right? So, you know, after I got that interview, things just magically turned around for me. And I went from selling 7 graphic novels to 12 graphic novels. And I was like, wow, I sold 12 more graphic novels that day. And I was like, all right, I think I know what I need to do now. I need to relax. I don't need to like know what I'm going to say in advance. Like, here I am talking to you guys right now. I didn't plot out what I'm going to say. I'm sitting down and I'm talking to you guys. Ship, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. I saw you. I was just, you know, deep in thought with everything. But you know, coming to the last day of C2E2, you know, I came out there and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go all out. I mean, this show's going to be over after today anyway, so whatever. And when I got there, I wanted to try and make amends. I didn't want everybody to hate me. So I found the guy who ran Artist Alley, and I said to him, like, look, you know, I want you to understand that what you said to me earlier, I take very seriously. I'm not here to harass anybody. I'm not here to make anybody's life difficult. I'm just here to work, you know, and I respect everybody that's here. You know, I know that they've all worked hard to be in this position too, and you won't have problems from me ever again. And he never did, as a matter of fact. We've got, in fact, we get along very well now. When I see him at conventions, we hug each other. And that's just how things, you know, how things develop. Sometimes we start out and things aren't perfect, and we just got to kind of work our way up. But what was really cool was that after that happened, I felt like this weight was lifted off of my shoulder, and I was able to focus on what I came here to do, which was to sell graphic novels. And I sold 24 graphic novels in a single day. And I was really happy. I mean, for the first debut of this book, I had done so well. I was so happy with the end result. And I had discovered what I needed to do in order to move copies. And as time went on and I released more books, I was able to sell more and more books. And as I got more refined and skilled at working on the floor, things changed dramatically. And I do believe it'll happen on this platform too. You know, just by sitting here and talking with you guys right now, it's already happening. Like Trish, you know, a couple days ago, I didn't know who you were. You know, we met at midnight on Wednesday. It was your husband, but you and I have been in communication for the last couple of days. For me personally, I interact with someone more natural than scripted. Of course, everybody does. Nobody wants to like talk to someone who's like, when you get those cold calls, you know, like everybody hangs up on those. Nobody wants to, you know, hear how you could save $15 in car insurance. You know, it's like, you know, the motto of it may stick in your head, but you don't actually want to sit there and have the conversation with the person. And comic selling is really organic. It's an organic thing. It's not selling in the same sense that like, hey, I'm knocking on your door and trying to sell you Bibles. It's a very different thing. It's me selling you on the fact that what I'm giving you is something that is worth your time and hard-earned money. And that's always been something that has been really important for me. Like what I do with any comic that is creator-owned on my end is 100% of my effort. You know, there's no cutting corners. The books take as long as they need to come out. And if they're not perfect, we keep reworking them until they are. I mean, that's just straight up. That's how we do things. And that's the only way I know how to do business. Ship says it best. Be like water. Yes, absolutely. You're right. And that's kind of what happened at Comic-Con. I just learned how to become like water. I got really, really good at it. That's what comic sales really are about, especially when you're dealing with creator-owned stuff, because it really is just a matter of you're the head of the market. You're the head. You are the Stan Lee of your project when you're creator-owned. Like Kitsune, you love engaging your fans, yeah, because you're the Stan Lee of FW Chaos Incorporated. Yes, of course, you're the guy who's pushing this book, or lady who's pushing this book. and you've been working on it for a long time. So of course you want to engage people. You want to you want to have that experience. You want them to enjoy your work. And that's something that's missing. Even if the sales come, it's still not the same thing. And I'm already just used to the fact that conventions are not going to come back for quite some time. There's a chance that we're not going to see them for another year. And there's benefits to it. On one hand, I get to be at home more with my kids. It was really tough when I was traveling a lot. And I remember particularly last year, there was a good long period where I just didn't see my kids at all. I would just come home from a convention. I'd leave Thursday, I'd come back Sunday, and I'd sleep all Monday. And then Tuesday I'd go back to work, package up books. Wednesday I'd do some promoting or whatever, pack my stuff. Thursday I was off to another state. And, it was just life on the road. And I loved a lot of it, but when you have kids and you have family to take care of, it's tough. I remember one year I went to Kansas City and I was leaving, and my son, he was so sad that I was leaving that he was crying. And, of course I didn't want to leave at that moment. You never want to. And this is just completely different, So, he got over it, obviously. You guys met him. If you guys watched our show earlier tonight on CBSN, he's a very sweet and tender boy. And he's also very sharp, too, and he's very eager to come out there and help me. He's sold a lot of books. I remember I brought him to C2E2 last year, and he helped me sell out. He's a hustler, natural born. And it's a good skill to learn, because it's important to, selling your own comic. It's not just about selling. All right. You're selling yourself, and you're selling people on the idea of the fact that you are someone who believes in yourself. And I think confidence is a key thing. It's something that a lot of people are constantly being told that they can't have. You have to kind of just realize at some point that no one's going to suddenly allow you to have confidence. You have to allow yourself to have confidence in you. And that's a tricky thing about this. And how do you have confidence when everything that you have built is now crumbled and you have to kind of rebuild it? Well, you realize that if you did it once, you can do it again. And you just kind of keep going. You keep rolling with the punches. Mike, how you doing, sir? This is the first I ever heard of people are not to steal people's attention at cons. Several times people have tried to take me from whatever I am doing, but with me, it only annoys me. This is good to know. Thank you. I don't know. It happens. I remember I was in Milwaukee Comic-Con last year, and one of my friends, who I'm not going to name because I just don't like doing that, he had some problems with another person who said that he was stealing sales from him. And he was like, I just wanted to see if you could vouch for me. And I'm like, dude, I'll vouch for you. And I'm like, it's not, because I knew he wasn't stealing sales. It doesn't, there's no logic to that principle anyway. When you really think about it, there's no such thing as stealing sales. Stealing sales, a deliberate stealing of a sale it just doesn't happen. You can't just, if someone's talking to you and they're looking at a book and someone else comes by and, takes them away, that person is not just going to go naturally. Now, I've had all kinds of experiences at conventions. I've had a situation that's coming to mind that happens more often than not, where there'll be a cosplayer chick, and she'll be looking at the book and will be really, really into it. And then her boyfriend will come by and be like, come on, let's go. And just drag her along, and she'll just throw the book down and leave and say sorry, and that's it. There's no sale and it's over. But things like that happen from time to time. What are you gonna do about it? You just kind of laugh it off. It's not always gonna happen where you're gonna get a sale. Now that guy stole my sale from me because she was interested, and he literally grabbed her by the hand and dragged her off. So yeah, that's the closest to stealing a sale. But other vendors can't steal sales from each other. If you've never seen someone before and you grab them by the hand and say, hey, come look at my stuff, that person, that's harassment. That's stuff that will get people kicked out of a show. So
it doesn't really work in that environment, but I can see why people might feel that way sometimes. But here's what's kind of nice about being in this situation. I don't got to worry about stealing sales from anybody. I'm here in my own place, and I can do this however I want, whenever I want. Ship, it should be common courtesy to not interfere in other people's pitches. Absolutely. And it is, I think that's I've never once seen anybody interrupt anybody from giving a pitch at a convention. That's my personal experience, having been there for a long time. And I myself have never interrupted anybody from doing a pitch. It's just something we don't do. It's like doing so is like just bad karma. If you don't want it being done to you, don't do it, because it'll happen. It'll happen regardless of whether you do it or not. But not doing it, that's just the respectful thing to do. It's like when you see garbage, when you see someone throw something on the floor, and you go up and you pick it up and you throw it in the trash, as a result of that, it's like kind of like a good karma thing. It's kind of the same thing here. We don't do that kind of stuff out there. That's never been an issue. Trish, love the random talk. Makes my workday better. So thanks for anything that makes Mike happy. Makes my life easier. Thanks for the new books. As you heard last night, Mike, life is limited to the house, and comic books makes life good for him. So thanks, Mike, I'm sorry. Long day, long week, everything. I couldn't read that all perfectly, but I got the gist of it. Mike, Trish, love you guys. Thank you. I appreciate you guys tuning in. It really means so much to me. And I'm going to ship out your books. I'll get your books out to you pretty quickly. You guys have given me a lot of business. And, Mike was messaging me earlier and he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see anything up there. Like, dude, you ain't got to apologize. I didn't have anything you were looking for. Tonight wasn't that night. Tomorrow I'm going to redress it and we'll see what happens. If you don't find anything, then that's okay too. Just simply coming by here and hanging out. And Trish, yeah, I decided at the last second that I just wanted to talk because honestly, I didn't have the energy tonight to just start going and pitching. Like I'm kind of reeling in right now from, kind of like a difficult first outing on CBS. And it's been kind of rough adjusting to this new environment, not because it's hard for me or anything like that, but because we're trying to get a feel for what we need to do. And Kevin and I, we take what we do with Hunter Killer very seriously. It's a passion of ours. We love not just selling our own creator-owned comics. We love just selling comics in general and being a part of the geekdom. And Mike, I'm so happy that like you're able to connect even in this way. It really, that to me means so much because I know how hard it is right now. It sucks. There are a lot of people who aren't able to leave their houses and have to be confined to isolation, and it's not easy. There are people who are immune compromised. Kitsune, she's constantly not able to travel anywhere, do anything. I saw her how she lives and everything, and it's hard. So being able to connect with you guys in this way, if it's a luxury for you, then it's a victory for me, and it really does mean so much. I have you have plenty of books right now. No hurry. Yeah. Well, I also think that it's my responsibility. Like if you buy stuff from me, it's my responsibility to invoice you and take care of everything quickly, make sure that, everything's taken care of and that you get your books in a prompt manner and that, everything goes over smoothly. I take being on the CBSN very seriously. Jen King told me, when I was coming on there, she goes, just remember, great power, great responsibility. And being a Spider-Man fan my whole life, I took those words very seriously. And, I had a mistake tonight. I accidentally went live 30 minutes before I was supposed to. So that totally tripped me up. That to me felt like I stole someone's sales. Like I'd never felt like I'd stolen someone's sales before. Clicking that live button a half hour before someone was done working was a huge error on my end. I take that very seriously because that person was in the middle of doing their thing. And all of a sudden, here's that live button. Anybody who's watching his show. And not only did it hurt him, it hurt me too. So right there is just an example of like, we don't do that kind of stuff. And believe me, if I continued to do something like that, I probably would get booted off of CBSN very quickly. You know, and it's a very, you know, the dealer game is a very, it's a very intimate thing. I mean, we're all in the same business. We're all selling the same things. But the thing is that we all have different things to offer. We all have different customers. We all have different people who are looking for different things. And we're all looking for our niches, and we're looking to grow. And Jen is one of the hardest working people in this business. She's done so much for creator-owned, you know, people out there. And, you know, she's done a lot for me. And honestly, you know, she inspired me in a lot of ways with her show to get out here and take my dealer outfit and actually make it into something. And a funny story about that too. So when Kevin and I started Hunter Killer Collectibles, it happened right around the time of my birthday. My sister was like, here's your birthday present. I'm just going to give you all my graphic novels. So my sister had all these DC and Marvel graphic novels, and she had never read them. So it was like basically like free inventory. She's like, here's your birthday present. You know, you can have all these graphic novels. And I'm like, I don't have any room for this stuff. I'm not going to read any of this stuff. You know, I've already read it already. So I don't need like 500 copies of like, you know, Dark Knight Returns, you know, which she's such a Batman fan. She bought like multiple runs, multiple printings and all these things. So we had all this stuff. And I just called up Kevin one day and I'm like, how about we start selling comics? He was like, all right, cool. And, you know, Kevin and I, we like to do ventures like this. And, you know, being his partner with Hunter Killer is just so much fun, because what we did with YI SOON SHIN, he would come with me to conventions and he would just totally like kill it. And every single time we went to shows, like we would sell out together and we had so much fun. It wasn't even about selling out. Like, yeah, we were focused and everything. We were kicking sales back and forth to each other, but we just loved the camaraderie that we had while we were working. We were able to make jokes. We weren't like just taking things seriously. It's not like, you know, when you're in that environment, you're not just like thinking kill or be killed or whatever. You're having fun. That's what the whole point of it is. You don't want to be like so serious and being like you're gonna like, you know, shit your pants if someone doesn't buy anything from you, because then no one's gonna want to buy anything from you. And having Kevin around is always kind of nice, because I know someone's watching my back and we're just kind of chilling, and you know, it feels like a friendlier environment. And Trish, I see you wrote something here. No rush. We just like hanging out too, just like we did with Tom last night. If you can tell me and Mike are so relax and enjoy this. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. That's awesome. And one of these days I should have you guys come on the show and we can just chat like this, you know, like, you know, maybe I need to be doing this too. I've been learning a lot from Tom Hutchinson. I got a lot of respect for that guy. And you know, I've been hitting him up for advice because he's doing exactly, you know, what I want to be doing, and he's found his own niche, and he's really built it up, puts out great comics, and he's a dealer as well. And just kind of, you know, learning from him and seeing how he's doing everything. His advice to me was, you know, start small and just keep slowly building your way up. And I mean, he doesn't need to help me. He has been established in this for a long time. He's known that this is the route to go. You know, he's focused now on doing the conventions that are really going to matter to him. So he's been able to kind of scale back on that and focus more on being here, which is great, because, you know, you have more time to be creative. And I need that time too. I mean, I got to tell you guys, like, I still got to work things out in Warline. You know, I've been working on it for, I want to say since June, and it's turned into so many different things, and now it's where it is. And, you know, it's where it is. Ship Q&A. Yeah, sure. Q&A me. Ask me anything. I don't care. But before that, you know, it's cool to be able to hit up someone like Tom and ask him for advice, and to see that he's like so open about helping me out, because, you know, he knows just as well as I do that if I succeed as a result of his help, that only he looks better, you know. So and not only that, it doesn't hurt him. And the nice thing is when we all succeed, things tend to work out. And another thing, it makes everybody look good. It's like what I always like to say. You know, you could spend all day being jealous about something Marvel and DC are doing. You can be all upset because somebody is working on this book and you're not. But, say Trish and Mike, you guys look at two comics. What do you see? You see two comics. You don't see that this one's better because this guy wrote it, or this one's better because I wrote it. Fact is you got two comics here. You can read them both. You can read them both and enjoy. So there really is no such thing as like competition. There might be preferences. You may not like YI SOON SHIN, or you may not like Daredevil Yellow. Whatever the case is, everybody's got a taste. There's a market for everything. There's quite a large market for everything. 7 billion people on the planet, folks. I mean, there's at least 1 billion people out there who will read anything, really. It's just a matter of getting it in front of their faces and convincing them that this is the thing that they want to read. Richard Shipp, what's your greatest positive accomplishment? That's a good question. My greatest positive accomplishment in comics or in general, I would just say one of the things that really made me happy was when I was able to release the Korean edition of YI SOON SHIN Warrior and Defender. I had this huge campaign when I had the Korean edition of this book published in Korea. And what had happened at that time was I did a Kickstarter for Fallen Avenger 4. I'll pull that out so you guys can see it. So that was the 8th issue of YI SOON SHIN. And what happened was it was around this time that we ran out of we didn't run out of money. We lost our investor, so it was a really tough year. Things ended, and I'm like, all right, it's either sink or swim now, and I'm pretty much screwed if I don't figure this out. So I went to Kickstarter. I managed to finance everything, but on top of that, I managed to get a publishing deal in Korea, and turning it into a positive thing. I really wanted to make it a big marketing campaign, and so part of the deal was when they decided to publish, you guys got to bring me out there and let me promote it. And they prepared a huge like plan, and they had events booked for me and everything. But for me, it wasn't enough that I was coming to Korea and bringing YI SOON SHIN back to Korea and making it available for Korean people who had been asking for it for years. For me, it was also a matter of seeing how I could use YI SOON SHIN to help Korean people. And what was a huge issue in Korea then, and still is right now, was suicide. There are a lot of people who commit suicide in Korea as a result of being severely overworked and not being paid for their work and having very high demand. So like in Korea, like when you're a student in school and you get like an F, or if you don't get into a certain college, that's considered failure. Like you have failed life now. And a lot of kids committed suicide as a result of failing tests or not making it into a certain school, because after that point, you couldn't achieve anything. Well, I kind of fall into a different pit. Like I never really looked at my education in college as something that defined me. In fact, I had to unlearn everything I learned in college before I could really figure out how to do things the right way. And, Tom Hutchinson will tell you the same thing. Him and I both agree we're not built for, a classroom. But the point is I saw an opportunity to help. And so I took my royalty check and I donated it to a cause in Korea, which was to raise awareness for suicide. And a lot of people didn't get it in Korea. They were like, what? This is kind of weird. But my publisher also decided to donate money to a different cause called the Comfort Women. And the Comfort Women were these women who, during World War II, were raped by Japanese soldiers during the Japanese occupation of Korea. And as a result, they lived these lives where they could never go back and get married and stuff like that, because once you lost your virginity, you were considered not good enough. So these women have lived very difficult lives, and I didn't know anything about this, but I was just thinking from my Western perspective, like, I want to help people who, are honestly going to thinking to themselves that they want to commit suicide, because, there's no reason to commit suicide ever. I mean, and I shared stories. I told him about Kitsune Windsor and like how he was, in a wheel, how she was paralyzed and making comics, and there's no reason to get so bent out of shape just because something you failed. So what? I failed tonight. Straight up, guys. I failed. I didn't sell a damn thing tonight. We sold like 2 comics, and I think Kevin sold a 3rd one. It wasn't a great night. I'll admit it. I don't care. Whatever. It ain't good. That's whatever happened tonight. That's not what's going to define me, and I know that. So I know I'll go back tomorrow. I know I'll go and get some sleep tonight. Sitting here talking to you guys about it certainly makes it easier for me. But what was cool is I got a picture of me putting a scarf around this Comfort Woman statue in Korea, and that had such a positive influence over people in Korea, and it went viral. And after that, like so many different things happened, and I was really happy to do that. And that, I would say, was my positive accomplishment. Like I brought these people together for a very short time, and then there was a whole bunch of political turmoil that just kind of like swept me off to the side. But it's not a big deal. I mean, we all get our 15 minutes and then everybody kind of forgets. It's just kind of how this all works. So that's a positive accomplishment regardless. And another thing too, I noticed 2 weeks after I got back from Korea, there was an article that went up on BBC about companies using tactics to scare people into not committing suicide because of what would happen as a result of them suddenly removing themselves from this world. So maybe something I did had an effect on it. Maybe it inspired someone to do that. And if that's the case, then that's great. I don't need credit for it. What matters is that people are, understand that their life is worth living, even if it doesn't feel like it. Because if someone like Kitsune Windsor can get up every day and struggle with pain and paralysis and all kinds of other things and deal with me sitting here talking and messing up words, and still make comics and still find a way to make it work, then there's no excuse for anybody else, right? So I hope that answers your question. I know it's a really long answer. Trish is saying, make a collaboration between you and Tom might happen out of talking would be interesting. I would love to. We can see what happens. I mean, I got a pretty full plate right now. I'm sure Tom does too. He's doing a lot of different things. Warline is keeping me really busy. YI SOON SHIN Productions now back in working again, and I just pitched another book with. I'm in the process of pitching another book that I worked on with a Greek artist. He did. I'll show you guys real quick. He did the 2nd and 5th chapters of MARX, and he did his own book, and it's really awesome. Can't really talk much about it, but we submitted it to a big publisher who has published his work before, and if they publish his work before, maybe they'll publish this book too, and it'll be nice to get a writing credit. And I'm also writing a comic with Kevin, and so my schedule right now is a little bit full, but that's not a reason. That's not to say that something couldn't happen in the future. And Tom and I have to kind of find ourselves in a similar position to where whatever it is we would work on together would be advantageous for the both of us. But at this point, I just I admire the guy so much that I want to get myself to a point where I can be kind of on that level where it would be advantageous for us to work together. So who knows, maybe it'll happen. And even if it doesn't, you know what? That's cool. Sometimes things like this are just not meant to happen. When Tom came on my show, he straight up said that some comics, maybe they're not supposed to exist. So, it's okay. We'll see what happens. And Trish says, wow, amazing story for me. That story make a great graphic novel as a woman. That story I can get behind. Yes, absolutely. I agree. You're talking about the comfort women. Yeah, it is pretty messed up what happened to these women, and there's really no light at the end of the tunnel for it either. And that's kind of the whole thing about the relationship between Korea and Japan, is that Japan never issued a formal apology for what happened when they occupied Korea. And so, they have politically, there's a lot of tension there, but, the people of Japan and the people of Korea, they don't hate each other or anything. There are a lot of Koreans who go to Japan. There are a lot of Japanese who go to Korea. So it's just kind of, how it works sometimes. So what creator comics do you have there too? Oh, creator-owned comics do I have back in the warehouse right now? I don't know, because I pulled everything out of this room. So this is the studio, and then back in another room is the warehouse, which is where I have all the inventory, and it's all just kind of like laying around right now because we're always acquiring new things, and we're shuffling through it and trying to keep everything as fresh as possible. And that's kind of the thing, is when I put up my rack, that's the fun thing about this, is like when switching back to the dealer outfit thing and what we do with Hunter Killer, it's kind of cool to just put books up there. And really, when I'm dressing this, I'm thinking, what kinds of stuff do I want to be? What do I want to talk about with you guys tonight? That's really what I'm thinking about. It's not really like, what do I want to sell? Because you don't know what's going to sell or how long it's going to take to sell. It'll all sell at some point if you make it available, but it's not necessarily going to move right away. But what can I sit there and what can I tell you about? And what's really cool is that, being a creator myself, I know a lot of these comics. I've read them because I study them differently. I'm not reading them simply for in entertainment. I'm reading them to learn things from them, learn techniques from them that's going to help me make comics better. And obviously I'm not trying to steal from them or anything like that. We don't ever do those kinds of things, because that's not cool. But here's an example. Like, this is a straight up page. It's bloody, yeah, but it's straight up inspired by Frank Miller art. Like Dark Knight Returns, when you had all those headshots and stuff. So we always kind of look for those things. Both Dak and I do. We're always reading comics, and I've always been buying comics. And even before this, when I was reading comics, I was always reading stuff from like Eisner or other creators like Jeff Darrow, who really had a really strong sense of sequential art. Being in this situation in COVID has really forced me to kind of look more into the smaller presses that are out there, like Source Point and Vault. I really love Vault stuff. Scout's been great. All these publishers are fantastic. Aftershock, like, they're really kind of like the new age. They're the new game in town, and I think that this situation has really allowed for them to excel in ways that they couldn't before at conventions. So it's kind of interesting seeing what they're doing. I've sold their books. I like selling their books. I would like to get more of their books in stock. I think creator-owned stuff is what really people want to see anyway. Like, honestly, I think my Marvel and DC stuff moves at a much slower pace than creator-owned does, because the Marvel stuff is like so readily available. But the Marvel and DC comics that we have are books that I really care about. Like, this is straight up stuff from my personal collection. I've been collecting comics my whole life, and I know how to take care of them. And it's stuff that I'm parting with from my own collection. And to me, my collection can never be fully dispersed unless I just sell it all at once, and I'd probably have to do it all for like $100 or something, which I'll never do. And but I like doing it. I love selling comics. If you haven't read something and I can convince you that it's a good book and that you should give it a shot, that is what it's all about for me. So I hope that I hope that answers your question. Mike's asking, are you writing a superhero comic? I hear they're popular. Well, so are so many types: vampires, witches, horror, so many types. Yes. So Warline is a superhero story, and it's a really messed up superhero story, because I don't want to just do superheroes. Like, we've already got so many of them out there. And to be honest with you, YI SOON SHIN's a superhero story, straight up. YI SOON SHIN is all about a real life superhero. That's what really got me into it, because very rarely do you hear about people throughout history, particularly in the military, who were up against such insane odds and were able to turn the tides and save their people. And that's what YI SOON SHIN did. He was outnumbered 10-1 against the Japanese. He beat them 23 times in a row and never lost a single battle. And it's an accomplishment. So I write superhero stories. Like, I felt like my grandpa was a superhero. He was an ordinary man too. He was an extraordinary man, but that to me is what makes superheroes great, is the adversity that they go up against. You know, when you look at a villain is everything that you wish that you would think the hero should be. You know, they're in it for themselves. They are trying to get something, and we can always relate to them, you know, sometimes more than we can to the heroes. The heroes are always kind of making things more difficult for themselves purposely. And we do that, you know. I'm just as guilty of it. I think I make myself work harder than I need to. It'd be nice if I could just sit back and not have to worry about that. In fact, it's so weird to me because I think this is the first episode of the shopping show that I've sat down and haven't pitched a thing. You know, it's really strange to me, but I had fun. Let's see, Ship's here and he's asking, I want a sneak frame from Christy Shin to appear in one of the new books of Freedom on Bit. Yep. Well, Christy and I are talking, and she's one of my good friends. I adore her. She's also been a huge inspiration to me, just seeing how she's been working her lunch hour routine. And she's out there every day. She's hustling, and she's got fire, and she's, you know, doing great. Mike was saying I got blurry. Now it's gotten better. I'm glad. And I think we're kind of coming to the end of the show here, folks, because I'm gonna need to get ready for tomorrow, and I do need to get some writing done. I am, you know, not nearly anywhere where I should be with Warlion, but I will just leave you guys with this thought. You know, I just want you all to know that I appreciate all the support we've gotten for the last, you know, month, ever since I decided to kick this show off. You know, Ship, yeah, a hidden cameo. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. Yeah, good night. Thank you very much, Kitsune. I just want to let you guys know I really appreciate your support. It really means a lot to me. And Kevin and I will be back tomorrow. Max will be back tomorrow. We're not going live on CBSN tomorrow, but we're doing our own show. And we're finishing up our auction tomorrow for that Mr. T. So if you guys are interested, just place a bid. If it's not your thing, totally cool. Don't worry about it. We're gonna come here tomorrow. Max and I are gonna dress up the rack. We're gonna have some fun, and I think it'll be a little bit more fun because it'll be a little bit. It's on our channel, so we can kind of relax a little bit. You know, we're still kind of trying to feel things out in CBSN, and it's kind of hard to. And we're still so new to this, so it's kind of hard, you know, to always be organic with everything. You know, it was a rough day. So, you know, we're gonna lick our wounds, and I have a feeling tomorrow's gonna be much better. And so, thanks so much, and thanks so much for the chat, Trish. Thank you for tuning in. It was good kicking it with you, Mike. Same here, brother. And get some rest. Thanks, Richard. And what time you work? So on Sundays we do 5 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you can't make it, don't worry about it. These episodes are up there. Let me know. I'll shoot you a link, and you can watch it later. We're going to talk more about YI SOON SHIN tomorrow as well. And tomorrow I'll be ready to pitch and do all that kind of fun stuff. So you guys can see me working it, and who knows, maybe we'll get a couple sales. Mike is saying, I have the Mr. T signed from a comic shop many moons ago. Please drop me a message 5 minutes before the show. Will do, Mike. I'll do that. Yeah, that Mr. T, that's a really hot ticket item. So, all right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I will see you all tomorrow with another episode of Kicking It with Onrie and Kevin, the live shopping show. And until that time comes, onward to victory.